Hey everybody, this is your host Mario Deniz with the Keepin Real Estate podcast, and today I have Mr. Michael Lwin with Nona Title. How are you doing, Mike?
Hey, how are you doing? Good. Great to be here.
So, for those that don't know, Michael owns Nona Title. You guys have now 2 locations, right?
Yeah, we have 2 locations.
The Lake Nona office.
Yeah, Lake Nona. We always make a joke about that because it's actually about 6 miles south of Lake Nona, so we call it South Lake Nona. But the Lake Nona office is there, and then we opened up a complete construction build out, new office, gorgeous, over in Waterford Lakes.
Excellent. And how long have you guys been in business? How did you get started in the title business?
Well, we've been in business now 3 years, and got started, again, when we first got started, it was really just directional, kind of wanted to be, kind of looking, my background was real estate, transactional. I also graduated law school. So I was looking at aspects of that. So when we first originally got started, there was a builder friend that tried to get him to send his business and stuff. I said, hey, look, if we open up this company, you send your business in there, start this title company. I never wanted to really do the actual title side of the equation. We knew we were going to have to hire people in there. I just wanted to do the development side. I wanted to be out there talking to people, driving the real estate business in there.
So more of a business developer.
Yeah, so that's actually my role, is more business development. I don't really hold myself out there as one of the owners per se. I really just the relationship building, the relationship and meeting realtors, lenders, anybody in our industry.
Yeah, and one thing that's different between you and what I see a lot of times in the title industry is everybody has a different approach to doing their business development, which is through a lot of different classes and a lot of different type of schmoozing, and that's all well and fine, but it struck me differently when it was you doing it, because you're not exactly like, you know, the little blonde, beautiful, unintimidating girl. You are like this big burly dude coming to get business. So it's a little bit different, but it does well for you.
It completely caught me off guard, right? So things that I didn't know about the industry. And I mean, if you sit back and you look at the industry, you could probably figure it out, but most of your lenders are males, right? And you don't think about that, but a majority of the lenders are male. However, when you get into agents, a lot of your agents are females. And development reps and marketing reps with title companies are mostly, like you said, blonde, blue eyes, gorgeous. These women that go around and cater to agents and things like that. And they do great in the industry. And I never came around that side, right? There are very little male business development reps in our industry. And it's been really successful because I think the other thing is I'm not a hardcore salesperson, right? I'm not going to go up and say, hey, I see that listing. You need to send me that. Where are you sending it? You're doing this. I don't get paid commissions. I don't get paid that way. So mine's just about the relationships. If you send us business, it's because we have a relationship and we've fostered that relationship, and we go from there. I expect the office and my people in the office the customer service should be given, right? You shouldn't have to worry about customer service on that side. It should be automatic given with any title company.
Yeah. And it's interesting when you mentioned that, because that's almost like a generational shift that's happening. Whereas if you went back in time 10 years ago, most real estate agents, most mortgage people, and most title people were the hardcore salespeople. So they were sort of like your Jordan Belforts, perfectly scripted, know every objection types. And fast forward to now, it seems like it's more transactional in that, or more relationship based in the transactions, where it's more like wanting to do business with people that you relate with, people who you feel are going to have a specific way of caring for your customer that might be in a level playing field with what you do. So it almost seems like there's a shift in how the industry works, because I've talked to so many people in the industry in the podcast, and most of the most successful ones, like I had Maria Nunez, who's amazing. And she's the first one to tell you, I'm not a salesy person. Like, I've never done a cold call in my life. That's not going to happen. And they find a way to succeed because there's more to it than just knowing your scripts or being salesy. There's other ways to approach what we do.
If you create that relationship, look, you and I both know that there are those people in our industry, right, that are searching the MLS to see when you have an active listing go live, and they're going to call you and they're going to pound you.
Don't call me. hey, title people. You see my listing go live? Don't call me.
That's it. They're tracking. They're on it. And I respect it, right? It's a different way of doing the business, right? I don't do that. I'm going to foster relationships by really just meeting you, being around. We'll be at events together. We'll do things like that. And you'd be like, you know what? We get along great. Let's send a deal over. Let's give this a go. And then, I expect the office to hit it out of the park, which they do. And then those clients are pretty solid.
Yeah. One of the things that you and I talked about once before was you go out of your way to hire exceptional staff in your office, because that's kind of your trick, right? Your trick is give me one chance, and then once they experience the back end of the office, then people are blown away by the way you guys handle things, because you've recruited sort of the all-stars of the industry in a way.
Yeah, and I don't mind overpaying, right? That's the way we look at it with the employees and stuff like that. We're running 10 employees now strong, and it really doesn't bother me. If people are worth it, you pay them, right? And then that will come along in the customer service. And we've had so many buyer's agents, right? Buyer's agents on the opposite side of the transaction come over and just truly enjoy the experience, truly enjoy the what we do. And they're like, man, this was so good. We're going to start sending our deals here when we get a listings, or if they work both sides, and they start sending us deals.
Yeah, and I want to dive a little bit deeper into that, because it's a way of doing business that's uncommon to our industry. But first, I also want to say the reason we're enjoying this stubby bottle Budweiser Discovery Reserve, which I believe is George Washington's original recipes, because it's 4th of July almost, and why not, right?
Any podcast that has alcohol involved, I'm done. I'm sold.
Yeah, right? There you go. That's what I had to do to get him all the way here from the Lake Nona side. But before we were talking about how you said openly you don't mind paying more for a position, and I think if I understand you correctly, if what you're saying, if a position is worth $50,000 on the street and you get someone that's exceptional at it, you pay them more so that they don't leave you, so that you can kind of foster that person in and make him a part of your team and they become a fixture in your company. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. And we try to create, look, we're not going to be the big corporate firm, right? We're not going to drop names here, but we're not that. What I want to create is really a family cultural atmosphere. I want to be able to go out with our employees. I want to be able to have those functions. I want people to look at it like it's a family, right? We try to breed that culture in the people we hire and the things that we do together, doing bonding events together as a group, trying to take people out. And I don't know if that will happen if we keep growing at the size we're growing, but we still try to do that now. We still try to do a lot of things that involve not only the employees, but also their spouses or, husbands, wives, boyfriends, whatever it is, girlfriends in those events.
Yeah, I think what I've noticed is some of the secret sauce, if to put it in a cheesy term, of what you guys do is you're the small title company, but then you have giants when it comes to talent, because you don't mind paying for them. And whereas every other small title company, not every other, but a lot of them seem to be doing the opposite. They're trying to grow by growing talent. So if we relate it to sports, they're kind of like trying to draft really well, and you guys are going out and getting, signing the Anthony Davis and the LeBron James to your team, so that you have more immediate success. And in sports, that has obviously a limited time frame, because athletes, live very short periods of life at their peak, but not in the title business. I mean, it's a really good recipe for long-term success, the way you guys are doing it, and your growth speaks for itself. Tell me a little bit about what the plans are going forward.
We have talked about the idea of opening other offices. See, I'm very open to that. I'm always open to, by the way, we're always open to good closers, good managers coming from other title companies. Hit me up. Always looking for people and always looking for growth. But if we have that opportunity and go, one of the things that we do that's unique is I don't charge for notary service, right? So we'll come, and I don't just hire a notary service, because we learned that in the beginning, right? You just pick up the phone and hire these notary services, and somebody shows up at your closing, doesn't even know where to sign, right? They just have a notary license. So the people that we send are either in my office directly or on a small list that we'll send that represent how we do it. So we do closings out here, Claremont, Lake County, and stuff like that. I send them straight to their office. We'll do them at the people's office. We've done them at restaurants. I have one particular agent. She likes to close them at one particular restaurant in Lake Nona. And so they go close it at Lake Nona. They sit down. They're looking over the water. It's gorgeous. And it just changes the experience, right? And it does it cost? Yeah, it costs. But it's just, to me, it's the cost of doing business. And it's one of the protocols that we do.
And when you say it's the cost of doing business, it's also the cost of maintaining business, right? It's
Correct.
the cost of keeping that business, because in a hyper competitive industry like title is, and it's so weird. It's always I always say the same thing, because it's so competitive, but no one knows anything about it. If I grab 10 random people from the street, chances are at least 5 or 6 are
Nobody knows what it is.
I've never heard of what a title company is.
Correct.
But it's this super hyper competitive world where there is like, people trying to like take business from each other and outdo each other with perks and whatnot, and getting really close to the margins and sometimes over the margins of the rules in order to get business.
Correct.
It's absolutely bonkers. But then the trick is that goes on endlessly. So you get a new agent, and you don't get to just wow them once. You have to maintain that. It's a marathon to keep that business.
It's a crazy business that you can mess up one deal, right? It doesn't matter that client. They send you deals after deal after deal. You mess up one deal, they're done. They might be looking for somebody else. That's the funny thing that we say about title. Title is the last person, right? We know that that's the last touch. Right? You have the last time with their client, with the agent, and everything else. If that's a bad experience, that's all you remember, right? That's all that people walk away with. They're like, oh, that was a bad experience, bad closing, whatever it is, money. And a lot of times it could be a lender. It could be the other agent. It could be anything, but title's going to get the blame.
Yeah. And I wish more agents would be cognizant of it, because this is the problem. This is just 2 quick stories. Yeah, I don't have.
I'm sure you have tons of stories.
I have tons, but I don't have to tap very deep into my memory bank. I just have to tap to today. I have to tap to last week. When I'm looking at a settlement statement and my buyer is getting charged double the closing fee that the seller is, even though my buyer's cash and he's not even going to be there presently, he's docu-signing all of the closing paper. So they're charging him double the closing fee. So like you said, it just takes one mess up to do that. But the listing agents should also be very careful, because the listing agents are counting on that seller referring them business.
Correct.
And if the title company is not facilitating the process accordingly, then we have a problem. Like I had another one a couple of weeks ago. I had a miserable time getting wiring instructions sent. I asked, I emailed, I called. I'm like, smoke signals. I'm whistling in a mountain. And the time for delivering escrow according to the contract came and went, and I still didn't have the instructions. So now I have to send an email to the listing agent. I'm like, hey, I don't know what to do here. So the listing agent is put in a precarious position because the escrow is not delivered. So technically we're out of contract, and the seller is asking, and why don't we have escrow deposit? And the reason is because the listing agent used a title company that believed that their internal protocol superseded the terms of the contract. And that's just
crazy. And we try to do it right. We all know that the most acceptable thing right now is wire fraud. And so you try to take precautions. And we have an internal system that you have to physically log in, and sometimes it'll send you a code, and you have to type it in and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, not everybody understands that and uses that. So we sometimes have to go back to old school. Here's the wire instructions. And we do it. So I get what you're talking about, and it's frustrating. The only thing I can say in communication, right? That's the kicker in every single title company and everything else. If the communication's not there, you're done. You're done in the water. So you just, that's what we preach that. We have a weekly meeting that we sit down with the entire staff between the two locations, and we discuss, we won't, don't call out anybody, but we discuss issues that might arose or problems or things like that. And one of the big things that we talk about is communications, answering the emails, received, right? Just something as simple as that, received. Get on it, and goes a long way.
Yeah, and with title is particularly complex sometimes because I don't know that those meetings are taking place, and not as common practice. And the client, if we define client by the person that's paying the services, is not the agents. So when it comes to title, I've always, when the conversation comes up with other title companies, I say, you have to teach your staff that customer service doesn't mean servicing the people that are paying. It means servicing everyone who is in the transaction.
Correct.
In this case, buyer's agents, listing agents, surveyors, everyone involved. Because there's a dozen hands touching in each file at least. And if you don't provide customer service to every person in that transaction, it's just not going to work the way that it could.
We used to talk about, like, title is very interesting, right? If you look at a wheel, right? Title's the hub. We touch everybody, right? We touch the lenders, the buyers.
Be careful with how you say that, especially when it comes to title.
I get it. But we're there anyways. We're already communicating with these people. We're communicating with every single aspect of the closing. Why not just send an email informing all parties that you spoke to that individual and everything's good, right? So just one extra email. I know sometimes it can be very tedious and a lot, but that's the way we look at title. And we're not perfect at it, right? We're always trying to tweak and perfect the closing process, right? But because we are at the center of the entire transaction, we try to teach, like, be a little more communicative. Let people know that you spoke to the lender. Let the other party know that everything's good, that things are moving forward.
Yeah, there has to be an extra degree of patience.
Correct.
For the people that work in the title offices, because a lot of what they do could seem very redundant because they're communicating the same information multiple times to different people. Sometimes, if it's someone that has a transaction coordinator, it could be communicating the same information to the same party multiple times. So it's just a matter of, I think, people that work behind title companies, one of the personality profiles that should be included in those folks is just that extra degree of patience. Someone that can do that over and over again without getting annoyed. And by the way, I'm not that person. So
I'm not that person either. I'm a DI, right? Yeah, I'm not. We need that likewise. SC. Yeah, correct. I'm not. I know what my givens are and my strengths, and that is not it. So I'm not in the office. I'm out there. Talking to you, doing things like this, events.
Very good. So what area are you guys doing more work in the area of town that you guys have the offices in, and then you try to get business in other parts, and then you open the next office? Is that sort of the path of growth for you guys?
Yeah, and when we did the Waterford office, it was just a good location, right? The area, the growth. But we handle all of Jenny Weimer's business as far as that. So it was just a good direction to open another office, but that's what we've been approached for. Like, we've been approached to open an office out here in Claremont, and it's just got to make sense, right? Because we do the mobile closings, it's very easy and stuff. And I don't ever want to be a satellite office. There's many title companies that just go open small branches and in other offices or whatnot and just call it a satellite office. I want it to be a manned spot where I have a closer there, I have a front desk person, you have actual employees and stuff there to make it make sense.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those. So there is a lot of things with title that I wish was more unified in the way the process is, the way wire instructions are
Correct.
sent, for example. I wish it was the same across the board. But I do know some offices that are doing the satellite office thing, and that works well for them because of the way they're structured originally. I've seen some that doesn't work as well. So I do think there's room for that to work, and maybe, for the right structure. But ultimately, I think with the title business, the hard part with territory is the central Florida is so spread out.
Correct.
So, you put an office in Waterford Lakes, and people downtown Orlando feel you're like a world away, but it's not that far.
It is, and it's not, and that's why I try to make it accessible, because I don't want people to have to drive to the Nona office or the Waterford office. So we try to make it accessible, and I create those relationships. So there's some that we close at the office. I have a few clients that every single closing happens at the Keller Williams office, which is in Lake Nona. So I send people every single closing to the Keller Williams office in Lake Nona. They want it closed there. I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, that's one of the values of brokerages that have brick and mortar businesses and, offices that are suitable to bring clients in for that type of function. Because if you have a closing and your preferred title company, because listen, I'll take a listing just about anywhere as long as it's in the state of Florida. I don't really have a problem with it. As I get access to the different MLSs if I wanted to go in a different territory. But when it comes to the closing, it's important that it happens in a way that's, again, customer service oriented for the parties that are involved. And if you're with a brokerage that has offices or that has an office that's suitable to bring the client, then you don't really have to worry too much about what facility your title company has, as long as they're willing to provide that service without charging people. Because this may sound strange to you, but there's title companies that charge extra for that.
Very much so. I know quite a few of them that charge extra, and there's some that have tried to change that because of what we do. We don't.
Good.
Yeah.
Hey, good. If you are the catalyst of positive change, good.
Yeah.
That's what I said last week when I had Joe La Rosa here. If you are the catalyst for reducing what agents have to pay their brokerages out of pocket, good. That means you're a true advocate for the industry and the professionals that are part of it. Go on.
Yeah, no, if you look at any of our settlement statements, I don't have courier fees. We don't have wire fees. We don't have any of those fees on there. And that's been a lot of change that people are looking for and stuff like that, because I think it's the cost of doing business, right? Title's an interesting game. We're not getting rich off of one file. It's a quantity game, but you have to have customer service in that quantity game. So going back to your statement about brick and mortar, is I've made it always like, you have a lot of virtual offices, right? Virtual agents and things like that, to where they hang their license somewhere, but they don't have a brick and mortar. And we've always made ourselves accessible, whether they send us business or not. If somebody needed to use our conference room, we just say, hey, use the conference room, call our people up, come use it, meet your client there and stuff like that. So trying to just kind of step outside the box, create things that are unique.
Yeah, and that's good, because one of the criticisms sometimes about title is that because it's sort of probably, let me think about this. If we looked at the real estate transaction and we looked at the real estate agent, the mortgage professional, and the title company, I would say the title business is the one that's most influenced by giant corporate America. They have the most influence on that part of the business, because real estate offices, there's some big players, but it's all fairly segmented. And then mortgage companies, there's a billion mortgage companies. I learn about a new one every week. So it's more segmented. But one of the things with title is, because it's overall handled mostly at a corporate level, the protocols, it's important for companies like you to go forward and say, you know what, you can use our office as a meeting space if you need to meet a client, or we're not going to charge for that mobile closer, or, because that's what's going to produce change, because it's not going to come from the top. Like, no one at the top of a giant corporate, structure has any really incentive to make those small changes, because they already own the industry. So I think it's good that you guys do that you guys are thinking outside the box and implementing things into your business that are creating a positive change for everyone.
Yeah, and it should be. I think at the end of the day, it should be a welcoming environment. And I don't, look, the offer's out there, whether you're sending me business or not. If you need a place to meet a client, stop by. Doesn't bother me one bit. Call us up, bring a client in there, whether you send business or not, doesn't, we just always been that way, right? Whether we can do business or not, at one time, maybe something will come around. And that's the way I look at it.
Well, and it's good, because especially if you're working with a lot of buyers, which means you don't have a lot of control over who you're doing title business with, it's good to walk into a title office and know the people there.
Yeah.
And so that's a benefit that I've had, is I've developed good relationships with people in different title companies, even if I can't send business to all. By the way, I wish I could. If I had 300 listings, everyone is getting fed. But if you have a relationship with the people in the office and you walk in with your customers and you have sort of the familiarity, your customer's going to be feeling better about the decision that they made about their buyer's agent.
Correct. 100%.
So when we look at the overall industry, you're a super smart guy, and I really like the way your mind works, like your thought process. I really enjoy talking to you about different things. Where do you see the industry going with all this, quote unquote, disruption and new companies and new agents and new things? What do you think is going to happen? Am I going to have a job next year?
This is interesting. Like, I speak to a lot of lenders, right? And I try to stay abreast of the situation, like what's going on, economy and things like that. And look, we all know it's like the '08 thing. You know, people roll the dice and figure out what's happening. You have a lot of lenders and economists, which a lot of lenders, they pay big money to these economists and stuff like that to get projections on what the economy is going to do. Everybody is under the assumption that we will see a slowdown, whether that occurs now before the end of the year and then transpires in the next year. I've heard rumors of now to the end of the year starting, and then I've heard rumors of middle of next year. Nobody knows. I think the only great thing about it is you might get a correction, which is going to wean out our industry a little bit, which some people kind of want and stuff like that, because you're going to weed out a lot of the,
I do.
I didn't want to say it. You're going to weed out a lot of the part-time agents and stuff. I don't know how I feel about it indifferent. I can make an argument for both sides, but I think we're going to definitely have a correction. Is it going to be an '08? Hell no, right? No, not at all. I think, the people that own their homes can afford their homes, right? It's just, you're going to see a slowdown.
Yeah. I mean, and I say, I jokingly raise my hand and say I want the win out. You got to be careful what you wish for, because you don't want that win out to cut your head off. But yeah, listen, I think obviously there's been, every time there is a good market, a lot of people get into the industry, and a lot of those people are very good and very talented and are a big contributing factor to the industry. And a lot of those people are not. A lot of those people don't have a value proposition. Their value proposition can be surmised to doing less things for less money. And so because, we live in a world where Walmart is the biggest retailer in the United States, people are attracted sometimes to do business with people that will charge less, even if it's for a lesser quality product. And so, real estate agents, I think, would like to see some of that go away, so that we can present a more uniform value proposition. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's definitely not going to be '08. There's not at all. There's in a billion adjustable rate mortgages out there.
Stated income.
Stated income, stated asset loans out there waiting to be called for. So it's definitely not going to be like that. I think it's mostly going to be internal to the industry.
Correct.
The way that we do business, the way real estate agents are compensated, with that Department of Justice lawsuit and the other lawsuit after, going after the board for fixing pricing and whatnot. Yeah. I don't know. Interesting times for sure.
It'll be interesting. I think at the end of the day, the people that are well seasoned and experienced agents are gonna a key word that we always hear is pivot, right? And you pivot with that industry, and you'll at that same time that you pivot, those people will survive and they'll be fine. It's the newer agents, the ones that are the part-time agents, stuff like that, I think are going to have the hard time, and they're going to have to either think different career choices at that particular time.
Yeah. And I think part of what agents need to be thinking about also is how to maximize their money. You know what I'm saying? If you're looking at your tax return from last year and you spend $50,000 in marketing, you got to figure out how to make that $50,000 be 40 and give you the same. So I think that's where, most of the best ideas in life don't happen in the comfort areas. They happen at the fringe. So it's those guys that their heads are about to come off that are going to come up with the next best thing for the industry, right?
Correct. And that's hopefully at that particular time, that's when you have your people that are good. Like I know I'm not good at the numbers game, right? That's why we have a CPA and accountant that goes, hey, you're spending too much here, or you're doing this here, or you know, that's, and then goes, oh, okay, let me tweak that. Let me work on those numbers or whatnot and go from there. And hopefully those people are working with people like that.
So you don't wear every hat in your business.
Correct. I know to push the right buttons. That's it. I know exactly what I shouldn't be doing in the office and everything else. And I know what I should be doing.
On that note, what's some advice that you would give to some real estate agents right now that are listening to this, that are trying to wear 25 hats every single day?
Look, the key word in real estate for me is leverage, right? Whether you're a $3 million, $6 million, $9, $12 million producer, is leverage. There's companies out there, brokerages. I'm not going to name drop anyone, that people sit back and go, wow, that's a 80-20 split, right? So why would I work there? It's an 80-20 split. But maybe those agents in that office are 20, 30, $40 million agents that you're going to have working side by side that are going to help you leverage and do stuff. And I think for those people, and then you have a Joe, 100% type stuff. So I think there's an aspect for everybody, but I think you have to figure out what you need to do. And if you're growing and you're at 3 to 5 million, that's when you got to figure out, is a transaction coordinator, right? Putting them on payroll or maybe hiring one directly or something. Is that going to allow me more time to get out there and market and do stuff like that? And that's what you got to start figuring out, is to grow at that next level and what that number means for you.
Yeah. So you probably, so to surmise, you think the best approach is figure out what you are not so good at and what
Correct.
can be outsourced for the least amount of money so that you don't get hurt too much, and do that in order to do the activities that are productive to you a little bit more frequently.
Correct. Like I have a really good agent, friend, $10 million producer, hates listings, hates them, hates even messing with them, loves working with buyers. Why not hire a listing agent under your payroll to handle all the listings for you? So now you can focus on the buyers and stuff like that, and maybe leverage and turn that 10, 12 million into 15, 20 million.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think the old model, if I remember correctly, was something like when you get to a certain level, you bring on an assistant, and then you bring in a marketing person, and then, you start bringing on agents. But I believe the future is relationship based.
100%. That is the biggest thing for me. Is I don't want to be known as the business development rep for Nota Title. I want to be known as that guy's a connector. That guy can introduce, whether they send me business or not. If you reach out to me and say, and then I can make a phone call and say,
Aaron, I think that's his official bid for Connector of the Year 2019.
Oh, there you go. That's right. No, because there was a good battle there. I don't even want to discuss all the things that happened with that battle. I was there. But just be able to reach out and say, hey, I'm looking for this. Okay, hang on. Pick up a phone, call something. Because to me, that's more important in this industry, is trying to put people together that are going to benefit, that are going to better them. I want to see people successful.
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting things happening in our time right now, and right now it's a little bleep in the peripheral vision of people, is that our generation, the people that are, mid 30s to 40s, we've experienced the growth of Facebook and Google and all these companies that become giants and monsters, and they become very intimidating to all of us in business at some point or another, because at some point or another you go like, shit, am I going to be out of business? Like, are they taking over? Like, they seem to be taking over everything. Like, am I going to be an Amazon citizen at one point? Like, now I can't even go to the grocery store. They're, Whole Foods is owned by them. And, these people are growing at such a rapid pace. But one of the things that's happening is the government is looking at these giant companies and saying, wait a second. You have a lot more power than you should. And this happened once before. It happened when John Rockefeller's Standard Oil became too big. And that's kind of what's spun out all the antitrust laws and, break up the monopolies and whatnot. And some would argue that breaking up that monopoly just, it was basically like piecing off into the same evil split into multiple parts. But there's real conversations taking place about the giants, the Facebooks and all of these gigantic conglomerates. And I think the only way you can protect yourself from that, guaranteed, is by making sure that you are having lunch with your customers, by making sure they're coming to your kid's birthday party. Because you know what they don't want? No one wants to look at someone at their kid's birthday party in the eye and be like, I sold my house to Zillow, or I sold my house to Open Door. Like, no one wants to deal with that. And so in the measure that you can build those relationships and keep them tight, I think you can survive that, because I think that's the future. The future is relationships. And you know, and to that point, I think, you know, adding agents first, doing what your friend did, which means, you know, he doesn't like listings too much, bringing in a listing agent. Bringing an agent first makes complete sense, because you're increasing your volume output of transactions, which means you're increasing the number of people that you're going to build a relationship with, which further protects you from downturns and technology disruptors.
And you hit it.
I hate that word.
You hit it exactly. Is look, there's a few agents that you know and I know that are really good at it, and I see the biggest success out of these agents, and you know, they're 10, 15, $20 million agents, but old school grassroots marketing, right? Just getting out there, and maybe that grassroots is not physically out there shaking hands, but social media, being present, being active in the community, doing things. I put a post out today on my Facebook page that was just congratulating, thanking Kevin Kendricks. So Kevin Kendricks is really known for really old school grassroots marketing, but this is the 4th year he's done it. He puts an American flag in front of every mailbox in the neighborhood he lives in, which I live in the neighborhood too. We're talking 900 to 1,200 homes.
Wow.
He puts a flag in front of every mailbox, doesn't say anything about marketing, about, hey, looking to sell your house, looking at
no call to action marketing.
No call to action, no nothing. He just puts the flag out.
It's a labor of love.
Through the weekend, and then picks him up on Monday. Picks up every single flag. So he's putting out 900 plus flags, picking up 900 plus flags, and not asking for anything. And it's just, to me, just besides the patriotism, right? We can say, wow, that's phenomenal, right. Unbelievable. But old school grassroots marketing, right? How can you do that where people know where it came from? That people are gonna be like, well, you know, that's huge. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I think part of that is the success behind that. To me, is the conviction.
That's it.
Is doing something because you really feel like doing it, not because you're hoping that you can get a return. And I think the best or easiest to relate story for me is Wendy Stewart.
Yeah.
Wendy Stewart was sitting in Starbucks with people, you know, showing them her shitty credit and how they could fix their credit. And it started with one person and ended up 3 and 5 and 6 and 7. And suddenly all these people were ready to start buying homes, and they started buying homes, and some started selling homes. And she built a business on a seemingly short amount of time, because she was able to do something from the heart that people perceived that as coming from the heart, and they believed her. She became the expert right off the bat, and she never did it with a call to action purpose on the beginning.
Even her, what she won the award for and stuff, her, I don't even want to call it a podcast. She did a YouTube. Do you know about her?
Yeah, the Wendy in the Cloud.
Yeah, and so we used to talk about it. And by the way, Wendy, I was supposed to call you earlier, and I'll call you later when we finish. But
we should call her right now.
Yeah, I know, call her up. She did that for years and never, ever, ever even mentioned she was in real estate. And I said, you have to start slipping it in. Maybe when you're being filmed, you drive up in your car and it says, you know, realtor or Wendy Stewart. Nobody even knew. They just thought she was the business spokesperson that would go around interviewing businesses.
Someone from the chamber or something.
From the chamber. She had no clue. She never told anybody. It was just Wendy in the Cloud. And I was like, you have to start. And I still don't know. I try to follow a lot of them, and I don't know if she's plugging it or slipping it in there now. But I'm like, you got this huge following of untapped resources, right? So start. But it just goes to show you how she is as an individual and what she's willing to do.
Yeah. And that's, I love that about her, which is part of the magnetism of her personality. And I think, again, talking about the future, you know, one of the things that's also very interesting to look at right now is artificial intelligence and automation. You know, like, you walk into McDonald's now, you don't have to make your order with anyone. Like if you don't want to see a person, you go to the little kiosk, you punch a couple of things in the screen, and your order comes out. So it's like magic. You don't talk to a person. But one thing that's not replaceable yet or anytime within the near future is creativity, which is Wendy on the cloud, which is putting flags on the mailboxes. That creative spirit that an agent may have is going to be the thing that develops those relationships that are long lasting and brings them customers. And so I think agents that are looking to grow, if I talk to someone that says, hey, I know you're doing X volume and I'm doing a lot less. So, what would you say to me for advice? One of the things that I say to people is try to tap into that creative spirit in you. By the way, creative spirit that a lot of times life has squashed and forced you to put away in a box, because creative spirit doesn't always bring you the money to pay the rent or buy groceries. So you have to kind of like tuck it away. But if you have an opportunity, you should listen to it and you should bring it out, and you should do things like the flags and like Wendy on the cloud. And listen, this podcast, this has been a lot of money spent, not made. Like, this is a labor of love, if like none other that I've ever done in my life, in that it's a big commitment, but it's something that I believe in. And so, I don't get any business out of it, and I don't think that I will anytime soon. But I feel better going to sleep at night knowing that I had a good conversation with Michael Lwin from Nona Title that talked about paying people what they're worth, not what their position pays on the street, and running a business in a way that that is like a family. That you truly care for the people in your business in a way that makes you personally responsible for their well-being.
Yeah. And I think that's just huge. And like this program, look, you're not out there asking for business with this podcast, but it's huge. You're putting influential people in our industry on. That's why I'm surprised I'm here, but you're putting influential people, and it's huge. I love hearing different ideas from different people that are influential in our industry. And I think it's great.
Yeah, and we've talked about this. I'm happy to talk to anyone that can properly articulate their thoughts and their ideas. And I believe that you should listen to everybody. And that's part of why I started doing this, because the conversations happen oftentimes in echo chambers or in very restricted forums that only allow for 30-second elevator pitches. We've been doing this now today for 42 minutes.
It's huge.
How often do you get the opportunity to speak to a crowd of people for 40 minutes about whatever comes in your mind, unscripted, with a beer in your hand?
Yeah. Yeah, the beer is definitely the plus here. But it's but you're 100% right. And I think it allows a little more to learn about people, to put people out there and understand their true thoughts. And you go, wow, that's interesting, and provide some insight, and hopefully somebody pulls something out of this podcast or something that helps them out, and they go, you know what, I need to look into that.
I'm sure they will. Michael, it's been a pleasure having you.
Definitely.
You are awesome, and I wish you nothing but success. We'll do this again. We're going to start doing this sort of happy hour podcast.
For sure.
Rusty was supposed to be here, but he's a little under the weather. But we're going to do it again sometime soon. Thank you so much, buddy.
Thank you, Mario.